Ninjago is an ever-expanding TV show, and with every year we get more installments into the franchise. But the thing is that a lot of opinions can come from that show, because there's simply just so much to think about. And typically speaking, there is a wide consensus on various seasons and characters, but the thing is that often, more than not, you will have a subsection of people who will have the unpopular opinion, and that has come to be known as the hot take. And on my channel, I like to cover some of your guys' opinions, take a look at what you guys like and dislike about Ninjago, and then shed my own light on your stance. And I do think it's really interesting, and I've loved the conversations that have come from these videos. And, well, let me check how long it's been since the last one. Oh, 5 months. Oh, I'm so sorry. So today we are seeing the return of the hot takes video, and I'm going to try and be more consistent than I realized that I was. I truly didn't realize it was that long. But if you do have a hot take, let me know in the comment section down below. And for this video, I'm pulling just generally speaking from my videos. There have been many over the course of the months, and I want to highlight some of the more interesting ones that I have seen over time. But I'm going to be honest, if you've commented a hot take within the last 5 months, I have definitely read it. And honestly, all of them are really interesting to see. But let me not waste any more of your time and go through 5 of your guys' hot takes. And like I said, I did read them all. I'm sorry I can't get all of them in, but I hope you enjoy the video regardless. The first hot take for today is coming from King Plays Lightning 275. Hello, my friend. And your hot take was, in my opinion, Rebooted was just okay. But your hot take is that you do not like Zane's sacrifice. Personally, I just find the idea of Zane defeating one of the most powerful characters in the show absurd. The rest of it was awesome though. I love seeing the Overlord return, even though it was a little sudden and the space part was out of place, but it was all good still, besides the ending, woo, and the love triangle. Of course, this is in reference to my season 3 retrospective, which if you haven't watched, I would definitely recommend you do so. But the Zane sacrifice hot take is definitely what caught my eye, and I'm gonna be honest, I adamantly disagree with you. That sounds very harshly worded, and I'm very sorry for that, but the thing is that I really do like Zane's sacrifice. Outside of the fact that it's a scene that a lot of people love and is often quoted as one of the saddest scenes in Ninjago, I like what it actually does harp back to. The ultimate point of Zane protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Zane in that moment was the only one who was actually available to take on the Overlord. Everyone else was being completely absorbed by the Overlord's power. They were all completely helpless, and there was nothing really that they could do. And I do think that was really interesting, because without saying it, they do reference the fact that in that moment, Zane had to do ultimately what he was ultimately designed to do. And I think by all accounts, that just simply works for me. It fulfills exactly what I want, and by all accounts, it seems to be what the writers wanted as well. But I will say, to play the caveat to the whole point as an entirety, I will say that I do think the whole concept of Zane single-handedly destroying the Overlord may be a bit weird, and I definitely understand why you may not like that. And I also do see the point of a lot of people noting how Zane feels very different after the point of this sacrifice. I understand all of these points in their entirety, and that's why, even though I do disagree, I definitely do see the angle that you could go for when it does come to this talking point. But I do just think as a whole, I really like the sacrifice, and I really just like the hidden message behind it. So I do think I'm going to remain on the disagree, but I firmly do understand it. But thank you very much, King Plays. I really like this one, and I can't wait to see the topic that does come around it in the comment section. The second batch of hot takes is coming from, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Ori. I'm calling you Ori. I'm so sorry, my friend. It's a very common trope that I can't pronounce people's names. But you have a few, and you asked if I could include it in the next video. So here it is. Number 1, Dragon's Rising could have been better if it was about the ninja preventing the merge and ultimately failing, and pieces of different realms are sneaking through. And I understand this point, but also I don't really know. I think the concept of a season where we would have seen the ninja trying to prevent the events of the merge and then proceeding with basically the events of season 1 of Dragon's Rising could have been cool, but I don't think in the way of completely retroactively taking away what we actually have had before now. I really do think Dragon's Rising as a whole has been very solid. I do like the story that has come post-merge. And remember, this is a land where the merge has been established. It's not early days. It's a land that people are actually now used to. And I really do like that aspect, and we get to learn how to navigate it with the likes of Lloyd, and I do think that is something that I ultimately like. But I do see your point, almost like a Dragon's Rising Season 0 where we actually get to see those events play out in real time. I do think that would be really cool, so I do think I agree, just not in the sense of getting rid of what we already had, but I do think that is an interesting one to think about. Your second hot take is Sora is the worst character in Ninjago ever, and technology is not an element. If the first Ninjutsu master learned every element, then how if tech didn't actually exist? And And again, I'm going to have to strongly disagree with this one in similar vein to the first one. To immediately get the whole thing of technology as an elemental power out of the way, the merge created new elemental power, and that is where we got to see a lot of elemental powers from. And I do believe you go into that on your third one, so I'll get to that then. But saying that Sora is the worst character in Ninjago ever, I do highly disagree with. Fun fact, Sora is my favourite character that has been introduced in Dragon's Rising. I really appreciate where she's gone. I am a little bit worried for her future, but I definitely do think she has had a very solid arc. I like the interaction she has, I like the fact that she's very much come into her own. I can actually see the progression when it does come to Sora, and I do really appreciate those little bits and pieces. So I definitely have to disagree, especially when you're saying that it's the worst character ever. I think there are a lot of contenders for worst characters. I think we've had some very interesting ones, and ones that just kind of suck. So I would like to know if this is anyone else's opinion as well, because there are so many characters that I can think of just off of the top of my head that I would deem to be worse than Sora. So this is definitely a hot take in my eyes, but I'm very nice and I'm very happy that this was brought up, because it did give me an opportunity basically just to say I love Sora. But I do understand, and I do understand where your logic is coming from, but I definitely have to disagree. And your third one is the elements in Dragon's Rising are just so trash. You got fire and heat, earth and quakes, and brute force. Not force, brute force. And again, I'm going to have to disagree. I actually do really like the powers that we got in Dragon's Rising. I think the concept of elemental power, and then more specifically branches of power, is a very interesting concept. Seeing how a power could be different just simply depending on the different type of stage that the power is at. For example, you said about earth and quakes. I mean, Frack's power isn't earth. He can't manipulate earth to the extent that Cole does. He can upset the earth, he can shake the earth, he can do little bits and pieces to the earth, but he cannot fully manipulate the earth like Cole does. And I do think that is fairly interesting and does show the adaptation of powers. I mean, look no further than when Frack does use it against Cole. Instead of just throwing bits of rock at Cole, instead he actually use the earth that's beneath his feet. And I do think that is just simply very interesting. So I do like the Dragon's Rising elemental powers. I think they're very interesting to see, and I like to see how they have been utilized. But honestly, I would like to know your expanded thoughts on this, because I do think it is fairly interesting. But thank you very much for the hot takes, and I definitely do think there's some interesting discussions that does come with it. And honestly, I'm just glad that I got, again, the opportunity to talk about Sora. The third hot take is coming from another name I'm not entirely certain how to pronounce, so I'm just going to call it Jesus. Hello, my friend. And you said that you disagree with most people, and that Season 3 was peak, and it was better than Season 2. And this does come from my video talking about the finale of Season 3 Part 2, just for reference, and also check that video out. But again, I have to strongly disagree with you. Now, I will preface this by saying that in terms of Season 3 of Dragon's Rising, I've very much been in the middle. I've seen both sides of the argument. I've seen a lot of people who really like Season 3, and I've seen a lot of people who really don't. And I am honestly just kind of in the middle on it. It's a really weird season by all accounts, and I really want to reapproach the subject one day. But I do just think by all accounts, Season 2 just does a lot that Season 3 doesn't. It feels much more cohesive, it feels like there's much more of a story to it. I feel like I'm having a much better time watching Season 2 into comparison to Season 3. I will say that there are things about Season 3 that are better. Like the animation towards the end of Season 3 is absolutely stellar, and I hope, really hope for that matter, that we do get a lot more of that in Season 4. But I will just say that Season 2's story is just really solid. I like how everything just comes back in on itself. I really like the scenes that we get, all of the character interactions. I really like the whole setup with Raz and Aaron. I just think it does do a lot of really good. And I think Season 3 does try to pay off on a lot of it, but in a lot of ways just simply doesn't. I'm mainly thinking about the villains when I do say that. But I honestly do understand why you may prefer Season 3 to Season 2. I do understand that there is a lot of good to Season 3. It's just whether or not you are the person who really wants to see that. Like I said, Season 3 is just really difficult, and it's definitely one of the most divisive seasons that we've had in a very long time. So I wanted to bring this one up because I'm curious to see what the reaction will be in the comment section. But thank you very much, Jesus. This was a very interesting one to actually see. Hot take number 4 is going to be coming from Cody B for me. Hello, my friend, and thank you very much for the much simpler name. And your hot take was, they should have brought back Thunderfang in Part 2 of Season 3. Like if Part 2 was solely focused on finding Aaron's parents and Raz's mission, like leave Thunderfang in the background for a few seasons, like we had with the Vengestone Buyer arc, this would have made the rest of the season feel more fleshed out, instead of cramming all of the ghost plot, Aaron's parents, and the underworld into one season. And I like the concept, and I like what you are going for with it, but I don't think leaving Thunderfang out would have been the solution. The thing about Season 3 is that it's meant to be the Thunderfang season, and whilst that is really interesting in of itself, and it should have been a Forbidden 5 season, the thing is that it's very much dependent on Thunderfang in a lot of different ways. The thing is that Season 3 in its entirety can be seen as very cramped. There's a lot going on in Season 3, but I don't think the removal of Thunderfang is the solution, because he is the main aspect of Season 3. I also do think just leaving him alone for a few seasons, and then just randomly going back to him would have also not have been the best idea. I think it would have just left a lot of people and a lot of the fans just kind of confused and just kind of upset in a way, because say if Season 3 Part 1 ended still with the Thunderfang tease and then we just didn't find out for 3 or 4 seasons, we would have been left very disappointed. So I like the idea of making Season 3 Part 2 less cramped, and I definitely do think if it was less cramped it would have made for a better season. It's just I don't think the removal of Thunderfang was the answer, and I do think that's a massive shame, but I think that is just simply the case. I mean, for example, if you did remove Aaron's parents, which means you could have removed the land of Leark, it would have left for a lot more space, but I don't think it would have worked anyways. I think it still would have had the exact same problem, and honestly would have made the season feel a lot more incomplete. Honestly, there's just no real solution to the Season 3 cramming issue, and that is a massive shame, but that's just kind of how it is. Honestly, if Season 3 just had a Part 3, it would have been much better. But unfortunately, they aren't doing that system. But I really do like the concept, I just don't agree with your execution. But I really like this, and again, I'm very curious to know if anyone else has a thoughts when it does come to it. So thank you very much for this, Cody. And the last hot take for today is going to be coming from, oh man, Shiroi? I really don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm half convinced you guys make these names difficult on purpose. But anyways, hello my friend, and your hot take is the worst Ninjago seasons are just okay, and are way too overhated, i.e. Season 7 and 11 are super far from being as bad as everyone says. And I completely agree with you. And I'm going to preface this by saying that I actually don't think that there's a single bad installment in the Ninjago catalogue, and you may think that is really weird, but the thing is that I don't objectively label any of these seasons as bad. Every single season has something that I like about it. Every season has something that I will come back to, something I will enjoy, something for me to rewatch. I have rewatched every Ninjago season many times, and all of them are watchable, and in my opinion that doesn't make them bad. There are some that I find boring, there are some that I may not get much enjoyment from, but I don't label it as a bad season because of it. The best example for me is Prime Empire, but the thing is that with Season 7 and 11, there's just so much for me to personally enjoy. In terms of Season 11, I like most of the Ice chapter. I think the Ice chapter is extremely solid and I have a lot of fun watching it. And the Fire chapter, whilst there's a lot of filler, and whilst there's a lot of growing pains I feel like, I also do think that there's just a lot of fun to be had with this season. I think there's a lot of really fun episodes, especially towards the start and the end. Honestly, my main problem with the Fire chapter does come from that middle section, but those are videos for other days. And also I will say Season 7 is honestly one of the most fun seasons that I've ever seen. I have so much fun just watching it, just watching the stupidity fly. A lot of people cite the bad animation and the bad story and the bad dialogue, but I just get personal enjoyment from that. I just have so much fun watching these really silly little things that a lot of people label as the worst thing we've ever seen. And whilst I understand that, and I'm definitely much more lax in terms of my opinions in comparison to others, I just can't really label them as bad because of it. It's all Ninjago. At the end of the day, if these really interesting and boring seasons didn't exist, I wouldn't appreciate my favourite seasons. And I do think that is the biggest thing for me. So I don't think there is a bad season by any account. And I'm very curious to know if anyone does share this sentiment, because I just kind of can't look at the idea that there's an objectively bad, terrible season, because we know what bad media looks like, and I just don't think it's Ninjago. So thank you very much for this hot take, and I honestly think this is one of the most interesting ones of the bunch, and I can't wait to see what people think of this one, or more importantly, when people tear me to shreds. But again, thank you very much. But those are the hot takes I wanted to talk about today, and thank you very much to all 5 of you for posting them. There were some really interesting topics in there, and I can't wait to see what more people think of your discussion points. And also, like I said before, feel free to post your hot takes in the comments down below, and also your theories. I want to know all of it so I can make more of these community videos. I love these so much, and I can't wait to do more of them. But honestly, hot takes are just something really interesting to note. I've seen some very interesting perspectives today, and I hope you guys did as well. And I hope one thing about above all else is that you can take away that these perspectives do exist, and maybe it will change and adapt your own opinion, and that is the joy of these types of videos. But thank you very much for watching the video, and I do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with more people, and if you do want to support the channel any further, which you do not have to, you could join the legends that you see on screen. Thank you to each and every single one of you for your support, it truly does mean the world to me. But like I said, that is about it for today, and thank you very much for watching. Take care. Okay, bye!